Hey guys, I'm ready to be back to teaching, but I'm sorry we have to do it this way, but I hope everybody stays well and enjoys their time at home. I'm going to go through a couple of the math workbook pages that are assigned for this week, and hopefully this one video will help you with several different pages so you can feel like you're understanding what we're doing. You can send me a message or call me if you have any questions, and I'll try to help you. But hopefully this will be pretty straightforward and easy enough to get started for the next couple of days. Stay well, and if you have questions, let me know. So I'm going to start with workbook page 144. And we're moving into understanding ratios. And I feel like this is a good place to go next because ratios are actually a lot like fractions. We can write a ratio. One of the ways that you can write ratios is in fraction form. So since you've spent a lot of time talking about fractions, I think this is a good place to start. So if you haven't already, before you watch this video, I want you to make sure that you've seen the Study Jams demonstration that I included on the email. You all have watched Study Jams and done that with us in class before. I want you to go through the demonstration, the step-by-step, and then try the test yourself quiz that comes up at the front of that. And keep doing it until you get 100%, so you'll have the practice with that. And then you can go into the workbook page, and that's what I'm doing here is examples from the workbook page, okay? So ratios, workbook page 144, and I'm starting at the front. I do want you to read the examples on the front of the page before you try to do the work. But I think once you do that, you'll feel like you understand pretty well. So I'm going to use the example at the top of page 144 to show you that there are three different ways to write ratios. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know, and I know that you've seen this in the Study Jam video, is that there's word form. And that's a little bit covered up there. I have to be careful about that glare on the board. So word form ratios use numbers in the word to write them as a ratio. So let's say we were talking about the ratio of dogs to cats, and there are 4 dogs to 3 cats. So you just use the word to as the word form to write that ratio. We have word form. We also have ratio form, which is the way that you'll normally see ratios written. And ratio form uses the symbol, the colon symbol, okay? Kind of like time, although this is not time. This means 4, 2, 3. So you read it the same way that you would read it with word form. This symbol is just in the place. The colon is used in the place of the 2. So 4 to 3. 4 dogs to 3 cats. Okay? And you may have seen this before in sports when you're talking about your number of wins to losses, and that's going to come up in one of the Study Jams video too. In the Study Jams videos. So 4 to 3 is how you would read that. And you also saw that you can write and read ratios in fraction form. So all ratios are fractions. We keep talking about all the different things that fractions are. And so ratios are fractions and fractions are ratios. So we could say we have 4 dogs to 3 cats. Now that's an improper fraction, but that's okay. That's the true ratio if we're saying the number of dogs to cats. We said being improper is okay. And you can also see fractions written kind of with the slanted line there. So you may see it either way. So word form, ratio form, and fraction form. Now looking at workbook page 144, it says, I'm looking at the example at the top. There are 25 students in the class, 13 are boys and 12 are girls. So the question says, write a ratio for the number of boys in the class to the whole class. So we have to use those specific terms to be able to write the ratio. You have to do it in the order it asks you. So here it says the number of boys to the number of all the students in the class. So we have to do a little bit of math before we can write that. So if you'll remember, there are 25 students in the class, 13 are boys. So those are the two numbers that we need. So we have to start with boys. That's what it asks for first. So we have 13 boys to 25 students in the whole class. And we're going to write that 3 different ways. We're going to write it word form, ratio form, and fraction form. So 13 to 25 students. Then we'll do it with a colon. 13 colon 25, but we would always also read this as 13 to 25. And then fraction form 13 over 25. But you also read it 13 to 25. okay? And now I also want to show you the next example says write a ratio for the number of girls in the class to the whole class. We have to start with girls here, and so there are 12 girls, so that would be 12 to 25, 12 colon 25, and then fraction form 12 over 25, but we still read all of these as 12 to 25, okay? And then the last one says write a ratio for the number of boys to girls. So we have to start with boys. You can't start with the 12 for girls. You have to start with the correct term, which is the boys. So there are 13 boys to 12 girls. There are 13 colon 12 and then 13 over 12. Even though that's improper, it's okay. It's the true fraction that shows the ratio 13 to 12. We have to make sure we write them in the correct order. So the part that you're supposed to do says write a ratio for each comparison in 3 ways. So number 1, it says you're going to look at those tiles and count them. It says the number of vowel tiles to non-vowel tiles. So you have to count how many vowels there are, how many letters there are that are not vowels, and then write the ratio in 3 ways. You have to write it with the word to, with the colon, and with the fraction. So I'm going to erase this and show you number 1. So, in number 1, if you count the tiles, there are 4 vowel tiles. A, E, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 vowels. Include the O also. So, 4 vowels to non-vowel tiles. So, I'll count the other ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like there are 5 consonants. So, on your paper, you'll write 4 to 5, 4 colon 5, and 4 to 5 as a fraction, even though it's improper, okay? So those are your ratios that you'll use for number 1. So you just write all 3 of them together in all 3 ways. And I think the back of the page is pretty similar to that. You have to be careful to make sure that you put them in the order that it asks for, okay? And I also want to show you guys, let's say you have a ratio that says maybe 12 to 14, if that's our ratio. Remember, ratios are fractions, so you could also see 12 to 14 like this. And I think as soon as you see 12 to 14 written as a fraction like this, you recognize that that probably needs to be simplified, okay? So what can we do to 12 and 14 to simplify? You would say divide by 2. So 12 divided by 2 gives you 6. 14 divided by 2 gives you 7. This is a simplified fraction. You also can simplify ratios. Remember, they're the same thing. So even though this has a colon here, we can still rename this ratio as a simplified number, okay? So we're going to divide by 2. 12 divided by 2 would be 6. 14 divided by 2 would be 7. So you have a reduced ratio, just the same as you have a reduced fraction. So on this page, you don't have to worry about simplifying the ratios yet, because that's what comes up in the next page. So I'm going to go ahead now. You go ahead and do page 144, okay, and work through that. If you need to come back to this screen to help you with that, you can. But I'm going to keep going in the video to show the pages for the next days, okay, just to make it so there's not so many different video links. So if you haven't done page 144 yet, stop here and do that, and then tomorrow you can use the same video and move on to what you would need to do for workbook page 145, okay? So I'm going to erase this now and go to workbook page 145. This time, just where I started talking with you about simplifying the ratios, we're talking about equal ratios, okay? And that's workbook page 145. So this is Tuesday's work, okay? So equal ratios at the top of page 145 on the front starts out saying how to write ratios in simplest form. So we have the ratio 24 to 30 with the colon. So this is ratio form. And it says to write that in simplest form. So you just need to think. You need to imagine that this ratio looks just like a fraction that you've been simplifying for weeks now, okay? So this looks more obvious to you. You know that you're going to divide both of these numbers to be able to simplify them. And what's the common factor that you can divide 24 and 30 by? There are several of them, but the the largest one would be 6, okay? So 24 divided by 6 would be 4, and 30 divided by 6 is 5, and that would be the simplified fraction. We'll do the same exact thing here, even though this is written with a colon in ratio form. It's the same process, it just looks different. So 24 divided by 6, 30 divided by 6, and so your simplified numbers would be 4 to 5, okay? You don't have to write the division in here. You've practiced that enough when you're simplifying, but just to show you that that's the method that you're using, just like simplifying fractions, okay? Now, there's also a note at the bottom of that example that says how to come up with another equal ratio. So if we had, it gives us the ratio 30 to 40, and I'm actually going to use word form here. 30 to 40, it writes it as a fraction like this, and that's a little bit easier to work with, but don't forget that it can be written in any of the forms. So if you